I realize I've been stuck on the topic for a little bit, but you know, it. What kind of started the whole thing was this whole, idea that women were engaging in height discrimination because of the fact that they wanted to be able to wear stiletto heels, and look up at the guy that was 6'4". So it was no longer enough that the guy be taller than her, because she wanted to be able to be aligned so that she was looking up even if she was in these goddamn shoes that were outright stiletto heels, and it was like, the taller those damn things go, the more they'll throw your back out of alignment, and the quicker. You're not even supposed to be wearing those for anything more than like 15 minutes, a day. They're just so terrible for your back. It's like I'm trying to point out the thing about high heels is a big one for me. It's not a little small thing, and it circles back to credibility on the front of even giving a shit about the opposite sex. I don't understand how ultimately I can stand up here on this stage and say, women are important to me. I care about them. I care about their well-being, and what's good for them. If I'm insisting that they do the one thing that I consider the most fashionable, it's true. I love high heels. I love the way they look. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you and try to pretend I don't, but that's not what's important to me. I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if I didn't tell you not to wear them and you ended up in back pain as a result, and a consequence, especially if it threw your spine out of alignment on a permanent basis. Some things are more important than being as fashionable as possible, and I'm going to have to insist that you prioritize them and put my foot down on that front. One of the added benefits of all of this is that it refuses to take the excuse, ultimately that women want to wear heels, and so you have to be 6'4" out of her hands, and says that this is a deal breaker. You shouldn't be wearing heels in the first place. You should be taking your spinal health far more seriously than that. And if you can't find a way to work me in to your life, despite the fact that I'm not 6'4", because you have to, then you're the problem here. You're the one that is insisting on fashion maxing to the point in which you'll throw your back out of alignment and into chaos and into pain. And as for me, I don't really particularly, it's also about conscience. I would not be able to forgive myself if I didn't do this, if I didn't raise this point in protest, if I didn't stand up here and say that I have to insist that you not wear them. View the previous videos that I've put up in the past day, please, if you want greater surrounding context. The videos that I've put up today, because the previous two are directly relevant to this one. It really it goes back to credibility. I mean, how am I supposed to stand up here and say I care about the women in my life and their world and them as people if I don't tell them, you should prioritize your spinal health over your fashionability? If I'm not saying this, if I'm not doing everything I possibly can to put my foot down and discourage the use of this particular style of footwear, if I'm not saying no, and the whole thing about the height discriminatory bullshit is that is the excuse ultimately. But I'm like sitting here and I'm like, it's way more complicated. I don't just want to take the excuse away from you. That's definitely part of the motivations here, but the other part is just the realization that we have data, and studies showing what this kind of shit does to women's spines, and it's clear we need more research on it. There's not enough, but it's not good. It's not, what we have so far is just not ultimately looking good. It's pretty ugly, and the thought that I would sit here up here and say, yeah, those high heels, they give me a greater boner, so you should totally wear them, and put them on. I mean, that's just so incredibly egregiously anti-feminist at its core. Some things should be more important than fashion. Your spinal health, you should take it more seriously. And the thing is that I don't know how I can credibly pretend that I give a fuck about women unless I'm pushing against the tide of this fashion trend and doing everything I can to resist it as intensely as possible. And if that means that I have to escalate to the point of refusing to take women anywhere unless they take those fucking shoes off and put something sensible on, then so be it. But the whole fucking problem is this. It's so much bigger than I want to rob women of the excuse for this insisting on men being 6'4" shit. It's not just that. It's the ultimate realization that if I were to throw your spine out of alignment by insisting on you prioritizing fashion over any other concerns, I would kill myself from the guilt. You know, of watching you hobbled in that fashion. I just would not be able to live with it. I would put a bullet in my brain, you know, because it's just too much. And I don't understand how I can stand up here on my platform and say I'm a feminist. I care about women. I care about their health and their rights and their well being if I don't say and do exactly as I'm doing now. You know, saying I will not go anywhere with you, and we're not gonna have a fight on this one. It's just not happening.